If you aren't okay with being recorded, then please drop off and you can watch the recording on the YouTube channel afterwards. Okay, so good evening and welcome everyone to the JoziPUG and Cape Town Pug March Meetup. Just as a quick intro, I am Jonathan Hart and I'll be covering the in the news and that shortly. Just some logistics for today. Just make sure that you are staying on mute to ensure that you don't cause interruptions to everyone else on the call. That being said, I'm sure the presenters don't mind being interrupted while they are busy going through the things. So come off mute, ask your questions. We want to keep this engaging and interactive. So please don't worry about interrupting anyone. Rather get the question out when you need it. Let's keep this interactive, okay? You can use the meeting chat and the raise hands feature as well. We will try and keep an eye on both of them during the course of the session. Now, just what we're going to be going through quickly, the agenda for tonight, we're going to go through some of the news items coming up. I've got a couple of really cool announcements that were shared last week, so we'll share that with you. We've then got MVP Reza Dorrani covering Canvas app layout containers. Really looking forward to seeing that in action and how it's going to add a lot of value to a lot of us. Dawid, you got a tech tip lined up for tonight? Putting you on the spot here.
Yep. I actually have 10.
Cool. Okay, great. And then Michael's cookbook, which will probably just be a Q&A session with Mike, and then we'll just open up with general discussions at the end. Okay, any questions before we get started? Okay, perfect. So with that, let's just
questions.
No, please no. Okay, so I see I didn't update the slides. So Mornay, I'm going to hand over to you to cover the news. No, he's not taking it.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll try my best.
Nice.
If somebody can unmute me. I'm joking.
No, it's fine. Okay, so Ignite was last week. Great sessions, lots of Power Platform sessions. There were some great announcements coming out of the Power Platform as well. And you can just start to see how much Microsoft is investing in the platform because they see the value that it's adding. You can still go to myignite.microsoft.com and review all the sessions that were recorded on there. There were some great sessions. I managed to attend a couple of them, so check them out if you can. Also, there is a nice consolidated view of in the news. So check out the book of news. That is just a highlight of all the updates that took place. So it's a nice consolidated view. You can have a look at everything that was announced, and then you're able to dive deeper into some of the topics that are of interest for you. I've extracted most of the Power Platform ones out of the book of news that I'm going to be going through today. Okay, so check it out. Very worthwhile. Next one is Microsoft PowerFX. Now we are launching a new low-code programming language. So this is really in the line of low-code environment, but this is going to be completely open source. You will already be familiar with PowerFX. The programming language that we use within Powerapps, Canvas apps. But the really cool thing is we're going to be extending this to other solutions and applications. Think of Microsoft Dataverse, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and even others going beyond that. So it's just showing you the value that this expression language is adding, and we're going to be able to take it and add it to so many other solutions at the end of the day. So this is really exciting, and it's because it's open source, the entire community can help contribute to developing this language and improving it. We haven't seen much movement on it lately, but now we should start to see a lot more traction on PowerFX. Okay, really cool announcement. Other really cool one is Power Automate Desktop is now included with Windows 10. So today you can go and download Power Automate Desktop and install it on your machine at no additional cost, and you can start automating your day-to-day manual tasks utilizing the toolset. There are some great tips and tricks, sending out personalized mailers and a couple of other things that are inside there as examples, but I'm sure you're going to come up with a number of different scenarios that you can utilize this for to help you improve your day-to-day jobs. It's really cool that we've made it free, and it is going to be bundled with Windows 10. The new inside preview builds, it's going to be included in it in the next couple of weeks as well. So for those of you who have already started playing around with it, this is great. You can just carry on and use those learnings. If you are just starting out, download it, check it out, start seeing what you can automate. I'm utilizing this at the moment now to try and send out multiple email engagements, agendas, and a couple of things. So it's really coming along nicely.
I can't wait for that to replace like some of the automated tasks in Outlook, you know, so in Outlook you can set up those shortcuts so that if you hit the shortcut, then it creates a to-do and it files it in a certain folder and these sort of things. I think that's going to be awesome once Power Automate gets there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, there's still a lot of connectors and functions that are missing. That's very manual, but you'll start to see that growing, and it is going to help a lot in that aspect. Okay. So we are also introducing a lot of new AI features into Power Virtual Agents. One of them being topic overlap detection. So when you are building out your various topics, it is going to be able to detect to say, hey, you've got two topics that are very similar, and it is going to cause some confusion. So just helping make sure that the experience of the bot is good. Another AI model that's in there is going to help suggest areas where there may be gaps in your topics and your chats that you have, and it's going to give you those suggestions and help you easily bring those in. And then the last one, as we know, the AI capabilities are there to help improve the bot's experience over time. So with these AI models, it's going to pick up a lot of other items from questions that have been asked that were resolved or maybe weren't resolved based on the feedback that the bot is getting from the conversations that it's having. So this is going to continue to improve. There's also a new NLU model that's helping to boost topic triggering performance. So that a natural language understanding model helps make sure we understand the intent of what is going on. And there's various components around this model that is built into the tool. This is really part of our AI at Scale initiative, which basically changes the way that AI is being developed. It helps provide a nice intuitive way for all the bot makers out there to work on the bot contents easily and confidently without needing to have AI experts involved. So we're bringing all this in to help optimize that entire experience and make that experience great, as well as improving what the customers or the end users experience of that bot is like. Okay. So that's all I've got for now. I just want to check and see if there are any questions or anything else that anyone has picked up on that they would like to mention. I did hear there were also going to be new updates to the admin center, giving us a lot more flexibility and insights into what's happening. So this is in the Power Platform Admin Center. And then there's also integration into App Insights in Azure. So you can get very rich information out of the usage of your applications out there. I don't know if there was anything else that anyone picked up over the last couple of weeks or over the last month.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if we're allowed to mention it. So Michael, that thing that you sent the email about, is that something we can talk about, or is it not yet?
What thing are you referring to? Is this about your hair or which email?
No, that's nothing. I'm talking about this thing.
No, you can definitely mention it. Yeah, I'm sure you can.
All right. So for those of you who have been eagerly waiting Dataverse for Teams in South Africa, that's been made available recently. And so if you go into your tenants, you should be able to actually go and spin up those environments. And I think that is fantastic news. I think it's really exciting, and it just changes the game quite significantly with regard to licensing and how we can deploy more of the advanced CDS or Dataverse features to organizations. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely go and have a look at that.
Yeah, all you need to do check it out is just go to your apps on Teams, search for Powerapps, and then it should ask you to add it, and then you can associate it with a team. We have seen that starting to be available in the South African tenants now. Sorry, was there a question there?
No, this is Reza. They actually added a few more things around Dataverse for Teams. This was all announced on Twitter by the product lead. There were no official announcements on this, but support in Japan, South Africa, all of this was officially announced. So Dataverse for Teams is available, and they also increased the number of environments. There was a limit of 500 per tenant. They have increased that to 20 times now. So you can have 10,000 teams having Dataverse for Teams environments. And that depends heavily on the number of M365 licenses you own. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah. No, that's a real game changer. It's great to see that they've updated that capacity. But it's still all in public preview. Is there any insights? Have you heard anything when that's going to be GA?
I believe they mentioned that this is already the setting is already in place. That's what they said.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Reza. Anything else from anyone?
I actually did a video on this, 10-minute announcements on Power Platform. So Power Automate Desktop, I just want to call one thing out, sorry. Yes, it's great. Yes, it's free. Yes, we can use it for free, but there are some challenges there. You cannot call your desktop flow from Cloudflow. If you do that, you need a premium license. So
yes.
Please bear in mind.
You still need that premium license for that connector. That's correct. Yes.
So yes, it's free, but it's free for just trying something out on your own desktop and keeping it there. As long as you're running it there, you're fine. As long as you are manually running it, you're good. If you want to integrate it with Cloud Flows, which truly takes the potential of desktop flows 10 notches higher, then for that you definitely need the premium license.
I would have been very disappointed if there wasn't a premium license hidden in there somewhere.
No, I think the announcement was camouflaged. It was like, pad is free, pad is free. No, it's not free. There are still a lot of things that are premium.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Reza. Anything from anyone else? Okay, perfect. So with that, I'm going to introduce MVP Reza, who's going to take us through the dynamic canvas apps. Reza, I'm going to let you share your screen on your side.
Sure.
Awesome. So just before we get started, Reza, I just wanted to congratulate you on hitting a massive milestone on YouTube. So 10,000 subscribers. That is truly such a great achievement, Reza. Well done, man. Top stuff.
Congrats, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll post a link to Reza's YouTube channel in the chat just now.
Great. How long has your channel been going for, Reza?
Sorry?
How long has your channel been going for?
It's been around, I think I started seriously in April last year. So it's
to a
year now.
Astronomical growth there, no?
Well, it's word of mouth. Let's put it this way. The audience have spoken. It's not me. So thanks to them. All right. I'm assuming you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
And you can see the presentation?
Yes. We can see responsive design, the presentation.
Let's go. All right, so hello everyone. Good morning from Houston, Texas, USA. I hope you all are doing well, and thank you for joining this session. I will be covering responsive design for Powerapps. A little bit about me. My name is Reza Dorrani. I am a Microsoft BizApps MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer. I am also the founder and leader of the Houston Power Platform user group. And now I can say I'm a certified YouTuber. So that's my YouTube channel link. And I'm very active on Twitter all around, talking all about the Power Platform. So those are my details. And the learning objectives for today's session will be all around responsive design, particularly in Canvas apps. We will look at what is responsive design. We will look at how we can plan and prepare our Power App for responsive design. Then lead into the new responsive container controls, the new screen layout templates that have been provided for responsive designing. All of this through demos. And finally, I will wrap it up with some good learning materials for you to get started with your journey in responsive designing in Canvas apps. So the first question is, what is responsive design? So responsive design is the approach that suggests that your design and development is such, of your application is such, that your app responds to the behavior and environment of the user's device, irrespective of the screen size, irrespective of the platform, irrespective of the orientation of that device. So no matter where your user is accessing your app, you would like your app to be responsive in nature. Why responsive design in Power Apps? Why do we need it here? Power Apps should be responsive by design. Power Apps is the ability for you to easily build web and mobile apps with a fully featured low code, no code dev experience. That's the definition of Power Apps. But why do we need responsive design here? Well, the reason is because Canvas apps are not responsive by design. There is a misconception that Canvas apps are responsive by design. They are not. Yes, if I build a Canvas app, I can use it on a mobile device, tablet device, desktop. I can use it, but the app will not be truly responsive in nature. The app only scales based on the size of your device. On the other side, we have model-driven apps which are truly responsive in design. And one of the reasons that Canvas apps, of course, is responsive by design, but how do we know this fact? Well, when you start building a Canvas app, the first question that is asked is, which form factor are you building this app for? What's the experience? Is it the tablet experience? Is it the mobile experience? End users can access your app, of course, from different devices. Once you publish your Canvas app, that app is available on all platforms, and the users can access it based on from their platform of choice. Now, to ensure a great user experience and usability of your app on each and every form factor, designing the app with responsive design principles becomes extremely important. Now, apart from designing, what is also important is planning. So before you start implementing something, it's extremely important to plan. So responsiveness also involves a lot of planning. For example, what form factors are you planning to support as part of your responsive design in your Canvas app? How should the app look on each form factor? So when I'm on the tablet device, the app should have this look. When I move to the mobile device, there's less real estate. How do I move the controls around? Where do I place these controls? Wireframing will play an extremely important role prior to designing your responsive design. Once again, what controls or sections within the app need to stretch or resize depending upon the real estate available on the device? Do we need to hide certain controls or sections based on specific form factors? Now, even after planning, you have to do some preparation for your Power App for responsiveness. Any Canvas app that you create, you cannot start using any of those responsive elements unless you change one setting in your app. And that setting is right here. By default, a Canvas app, if you head over to advanced and head over to settings, there is a feature called scale to fit that is turned on. This is by design. And because that feature is turned on, whenever you access that app through any device, tablet, mobile, desktop, it doesn't matter. The app will scale to the dimensions of the original app that it was built for. So if I pick the tablet form factor, if I access the app from my mobile device, it will scale on my mobile device. It won't truly be responsive. And in order for you to start building responsive apps, the first step you have to take is to ensure that you turn off the setting. And this setting is available under app settings, under screen size and orientation. Once you enable this setting, you will also get certain new controls to play with. One of those latest controls that have been added to help in designing responsive apps, again, bear in mind, to help in designing responsive apps, not these controls are no magic controls that you drop to your screen and the app becomes responsive. These controls are the new container controls. The advantage that these container controls provide is that they automatically set certain set of properties for every control that you add within them. And the key properties for responsive design are truly the X property, which is the position of your control on the X axis, the Y property, the position of your control on the Y axis. There is also the height as well as the width. These are the 4 key properties that we would have to work with typically if we would like to build a responsive app. Within a responsive container control, these properties are handled for us, and all we have to manage is the properties at the container level. These containers also come with some additional properties which allow us to distribute space and wrap the controls depending upon the real estate available. And not just the responsive container controls, we have also been provided with 3 new responsive screen templates that we can leverage. And these responsive screen templates leverage nothing but those same container controls. So it's built with a combination of those container controls to create 3 layout types that we can leverage for building responsive apps. Bear in mind, these 3 layout templates are only available if you select the tablet form factor on your app. All right, enough talking. Let's get straight into our demo. And feel free to go off mute, ask your question. I will also make sure I have the chat window open on a different screen. So if anybody has a question, we can take those questions right away.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it aside.
Perfect. Okay, so right here I am in the, and I'm assuming my screen is still visible. I'm showing Powerapps right now on my browser.
Yes.
Perfect. So out here in the Canvas apps experience, I'm in the Powerapps maker portal right here. I have my options to create a Canvas app. I'll go ahead and create a new Canvas app. And right here is that first important aspect that when you build a Canvas app, you have to choose whether you're building this keeping the tablet experience in mind or keeping the mobile experience in mind. For today's demo, because I want more real estate to play with, I'll select the tablet experience and I will call this my work tracker app. Okay, so I'm just creating a work progress tracking app and I will click on create, and just like that, this will go ahead and open up the maker experience for me right here in the studio. So I've been presented with an empty canvas right here, and to prove my point around responsiveness, I'll just create a very simple label control right here on the top, and this is a very typical use case. Just going to span the width of this control. I will give this a title called work progress tracker, and I will probably set some color, background color, center align this, and that's it. Just plain simple header. Now, if I just hit preview, if you observe right here, the app is being presented to me in the tablet form factor. And even if I resize my screen, you will observe that the app is just scaling, right? It's just positioning itself based on the original form factor that I had created. Now, this is happening because by design, remember, your app does not adhere to any of the principles of responsive design. That's because the scaling feature is turned on. So for that, if I head over to File, Settings and Advanced Settings, and sorry, to Screen Size and Orientation, right here, the scale to fit feature is turned on. This is something that you would have to turn off in order to begin working with responsive design. So this is a mandatory step. So you have to turn this off. Next, you also have the option to decide whether you would like to lock the screen orientation or not. In my case, I'm just going to keep it on and I will click apply. And this will now apply the fact that scale to fit is turned off for all my screens within this app. Now, if I head back to my app and if I preview the app, and if I start resizing my window, right? If I start changing the height, changing the width, you will note that the screen at least, or the real estate that's available is being taken up by the screen, but my label control is all over the place. Even if I increase the width of my browser, the label control is not consuming the entire width. And there are reasons for it. Now, first thing is, if I look at the screen itself, the screen has a fill property. Let me go and fill this with a light gray shade. If I preview the app, observe how the light gray shade is spanning across the length and width of my screen, right? You see, the screen is truly responsive in nature. And the reason for that is because the screen has a couple of properties here. Let's check it out. The first one is width. If you look at the width of the screen, it says max of app.width and app.minimum screen width. Now, what is app.width? What is this property called app.width? And on very similar lines, if I head over to the height, we have app.height and app.min screen height. Now, I'll add a couple of label controls quickly onto the screen. The first one, I will paste the app.width, and the second one, I will paste the app.height. Now observe right here, it says the width is 1366, the height is 768. And if I head over to File, Settings, Screen Size and Orientation, because I chose the tablet form factor, here are the width and the height, 1366 by 768. So those are exactly the numbers that I see in the studio. But when I preview my app, now the app.height and the app.width are different. They are based on the actual height and width of my browser. And as I start shrinking the width, you will observe how this width attribute changes depending upon the width of my screen. So this is a live width of my device. And same thing, if I change the height, you will observe that the height attribute will change on the fly. Now, why is the label not acting in a responsive manner? Why is the label not spanning the entire width of my screen? Well, that's because if I select my header control, and if I head over to the width property, the width is hard-coded to 1366. And that's why it is always and always fixed at 1366, but I need to change that. And I can change that to app.width. That's one option. If I preview my app, this time if you observe, even as the width shrinks, the header is always center aligned and takes the entire real estate of my screen. That's because I'm relating it to app.width. Now I can also change this to parent.width. And what is the parent of this label control? The parent of this label control is nothing but the screen. So it's basically adhering to the screen width, which once again is responsive in nature. So this sounds very easy, right? I added a label control, I made it responsive. Okay, but what if I start building a very simple form, right? What if I add name? What if I add a text box control here? What if I start building forms out? What do I have to do for each of these controls? Well, I have to set the width, I have to set the logic for the width, I have to set the logic for the height, I have to set the logic for the X property, the Y property, because I need to position it depending upon the real estate available on my screen. So is it possible to build responsive apps? Let's say, was it possible to build responsive apps a year ago, 2 years ago? Yes. I have built a few for customers, and it was a lot of work. Because working with these 4 properties for each and every control is not a viable option. If it takes me X number of hours to build an app, just as an example, it will probably take me 2x or 3x the amount of time to build a responsive app. That's the level of effort. And responsiveness not just means that my control is spanning the width of my screen. Responsiveness also means that as the real estate shrinks, controls reposition themselves. You know what's a great example of a responsive web page? Powerapps itself, the maker portal. Check this out. As I shrink the width, see how the controls will position themselves. You see this? You see how these controls have just moved vertical? If I increase the width, you see how they are stacking horizontally? This is responsive design. Depending upon the real estate available on the screen, the controls are positioning themselves. The example of a header label that I just gave is very simple. I don't want to reposition it. It's always centered. I don't want to move it around. But if I have to move things, then I got to play with those 2 properties, the X property and the Y property. All of this is a lot of work. And to alleviate some of these challenges, the Powerapps team has provided to us certain new controls that we can play with. So let me go ahead and delete these. And I will go ahead to the plus icon on the left-hand side and add the new controls called the container controls. Now in the container controls, the 2 key controls that we are looking out for is the vertical container and the horizontal container control. So I'll go ahead and pick the vertical container for now. And this goes ahead and adds a container control on my screen. Here's my container control. It's just like any other control. And in this control, I can start adding other controls. So for example, just to prove my point around how these container controls work, inside this container control, I will add 4 buttons. Okay. And I will call this A, just trying to keep it very simple, A, B, C, and D. Okay. So I've just added 4 button controls inside this container control. Now I made this container control vertical. If you see the direction, it's vertical. So any control that I add in this container will stack up vertically. You see the buttons are placed vertically. I can change the direction to horizontal. So the buttons will be placed horizontally. Bear in mind, the container also has a height and a width, right? So I have to increase the width to see all the controls. If I reduce the width, I won't be able to see them. The direction property is what differentiates whether your container control is horizontal or vertical. So basically, even though I added a vertical container, just by changing the direction, the container has become horizontal. So that's the only difference between those 2 containers. Let me stick to horizontal for now. The next property is justification. How would you like to justify the controls within the container? Right now, they are left justified. They are at the start. I can set them in the center. I can set them on the right, or I can equally place them. Equally place them based on what? Well, because it's a horizontal container based on the width. You see, as I increase the width of my container, the spacing increases. As I decrease the width of my container, the spacing decreases. If I center align them, they will always be center aligned depending upon the width of the container. Vertical alignment. It's right now at the top. I can place it in the middle. I can place it at the bottom, or I can stretch it across the entire height that's available. So as the height increases, you see, stretches the entire height. I can also define a gap between the controls. So if I say 5 pixels, you see there's a small 5 pixel gap between all the controls. And then we have the overflow properties. Right now, if I shrink the width, if I shrink the height, if I need scroll bars here, I can set that up right here. So if I increase the height, I see the horizontal scroll right here because I have turned on scroll. If I have enough real estate available, in that case, there won't be a scroll bar for my container. And here comes the key property, wrap. By default, wrap is turned off. If I turn this on, now if the real estate decreases for my container, observe how the controls are wrapping. And the controls are wrapping vertically because this is a horizontal container. So horizontal container, the controls will wrap vertically. Vertical container, so let's change this to vertical. The controls will wrap. If I go and so this is my, sorry, so this is horizontal container, the controls will wrap vertically if the container is vertical, and as the height shrinks, the controls will start wrapping horizontally. Okay, these are some key properties of containers. Now the beauty is, if you observe, I did not change the X, the Y, the height and the width. I didn't do anything to those controls. The only settings I played with were the settings of my container. Also for each of the controls within these containers, okay, within these containers, you get some additional properties. So if you notice right here for button 1 or the button that has the text A, I have the alignment option, but there's a new setting here called flex width. Now, because this is a horizontal container, I will get the feature for flexible width. If it was a vertical container, I would get the feature for flexible height. Okay, so it's either flexible width or flexible height, depending upon the container the control is living in. In this case, I get flexible width. So if I turn this on, observe right here, the first button is now set to flex width. You see, it takes the entire width that's available as part of the container. And as the container width shrinks, you see the button width also changes. I can do the same thing for any control. I can turn on flexible width for this button as well, right? And as I shrink, observe how the buttons A and D, the width is flexible, right? I can even define how much real estate in terms of the flexible width should these buttons take. So right now I have two controls that have flexible width turned on. So if you notice fill portions, it says there are two controls turned on and they're each taking one portion. That means 50% of the remaining real estate. Now, if I change this to 2, this becomes 2/3. So button A will take 2/3 of the real estate. Button D will take the remaining 1/4 of the real estate. So as the width changes, observe how button A takes 2/3, button D takes 1/3, and B and C have fixed widths. A and D also have a minimum width, which is 160. The moment they hit the minimum width, it will start wrapping. So these are some of the behaviors of the container controls. Now you would think that if I go and preview this app, if I start reducing the real estate, these buttons would wrap, right? The container controls should work, but it's not, right? See, it's not. It's not responsive. Why? Why is my container control not responsive? When I'm checking it right here, when I'm changing the width, it is responsive. But when I preview my app and if I decrease the width, why is it not responsive? Well, the reason is because the container control itself is also a control, right? Who's going to set the properties of this control? Just like I set the properties of the label control, I have to work around this as well. So what's the X property? 0. That's because it's sitting at the leftmost position. Fine. What's the Y property? Hard coded to 232. So it's sitting 232 pixels from the top. Maybe I want to change that. I want to set the Y to my header label, which is badly named as label 1 dot height. That means position this right after the header label. So it's sitting right there. What's the width of my container control? It's hard coded 950. I need to change that. Change it to what? Parent.width. That means take the full width of my screen. Screen is the parent of the container. And what's the height? What's the height of my container control? I'm going to change this to parent.height. That's the height of my screen minus the height of the label or the header control. Little bit of maths, simple maths. And now This container control is going to take the entire remaining real estate on my screen, no matter what the dimensions of my screen are. Now, if I preview my app, as I start reducing the width, notice how the container control wrapped. Now, I can't go below this because I have a minimum screen width defined for my app. I can even change that. But right now, if you observe, when there was not enough real estate available, button D wrapped to the next row. That's because it's a horizontal container, so the controls will wrap vertically. Great. So when I want to build responsive apps, I add containers and I just set these 4 properties on the container and I can start building responsive controls, or I can start making my app responsive. Yes, you can start doing that. But they've also added some new screen templates. And these are the 3 new screen templates. You will only see them on the tablet device or on the tablet form factor app. If I was to use the mobile form factor app, I would not have these options. In that case, I would have to do exactly the steps that I just took for the container. Now, in this case, because we have that benefit, I'll go ahead and choose one of these. Let's say I choose this one. Honestly, I'm just randomly choosing one. Now, let me go ahead and delete my first screen. Okay, I'm going to call this my home screen. Okay, I'm going to actually build an app and show you how responsive design works. So this is my home screen, and right here in this screen, I already have containers. And these containers are coming as part of the template, right? Let's check this first container out. Here's a container. Now remember, when I added the container myself, I wrote those formulas for width, height, X and Y, right? Let's check the formulas for this. Of course, X would be 0, Y would be 0. That's obvious. It's taking the entire real estate, or it's positioned on the top left. The width is parent.width. So you see that formula is already set for us. Rather than me stating parent.width, it's already done for you. If I go to height, needless to say, it would be parent.height. So it's already adhering to the responsive nature of the screen. And I see the comments. Yes, you can add containers within containers, and that's exactly what they've done here. Within the main container, I have multiple containers. So basically, you can nest containers. You can have a container within a container within a container. You can do that. And that's exactly what has been done for us right here. Now, in my case, I want to build an actual app. So I have a SharePoint site here, and as part of the SharePoint site, I have a very simple list called Work Progress Tracker. Very simple use case. And right here in my app, I would like to build an app so users can come in, look at the data in this list, as well as create records, edit records, delete, the full feature set of working with that list. So let's try and build an app. Okay. So for the header here, maybe I would like to add a header label. So what do? I'll add a label control. I will call this my work progress tracker. That's the header label. I will fill this background color, give it a theme color, maybe increase the size. Now the label is not spanning the entire width. Why? Well, let's look at the container first. In the container, the vertical alignment, let's stretch the alignment. So let it take the entire height of that container. That's all I did, just one click. For if I go to the label, remember, if I select the control will have a property called flex width. I'm just going to turn this on. And observe how the label now is taking the full width. And I will center align my label. Now, if I preview this app, see, this is responsive. See, the label is sitting right in the center. It's taking the full width. Perfect. Okay. I would like to place a footer. In my case, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, so I'll just copy this, select the footer container, paste it in there, and maybe change this to all rights reserved, as if it's a very grand app, but all rights reserved. And maybe I will add a formula here which says get me the year for today. There you go. All rights reserved for 2021, and reduce the width, reduce the font size. And once again, if I go to this container, The container will have a vertical alignment. Let's span it to take the entire height. Now, if I preview this, here is a header and footer, both being responsive. Even if I change the height, you see the header and footer will always be sitting at the top and the bottom. Okay, let's go back. What's next? Well, I need to connect to my data source to get the data. So let's do that. Let's go to connectors. Let's search for SharePoint. Trust me, I'm just building this on the fly. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I'm going to take a chance. Here's my list, work progress tracker, connect. All right. I was keeping a close eye on the chat window as well, and I did observe in the chat window, someone said, I wish galleries were responsive as well, right? Galleries are a big pain to work with, and I completely do agree. The gallery experience in Powerapps is quite a pain. Now let's see if we can ease some of those challenges right here. Let's check it out. Okay, so right here in my main section, I will go ahead and insert a gallery, and let me pick any of these. I'll pick the vertical gallery. Okay. Now this added the gallery. First thing, observe the gallery is not spanning the entire width. What do I do? Go to the container and go ahead and flex it. Let it span the entire width. Now back to my gallery, I'll connect it to my data source, and maybe I'll just pick any type here. So here's my gallery and showing data actually from my data source. If I preview this app, observe that the gallery is also flexible. Check this out. You see this? Right? See, it's flexible. Doesn't it look weird in a white screen, right? Here's the text, the icon has gotten extremely on the right, right? Yeah, I can change this. Maybe I select the gallery. Gallery has something called wrap count. Maybe I'll wrap 3 items in a row. Now it looks good. If I preview the app, it looks really neat, right? It has that real estate, so it places it. Well, what happens if my width shrinks? What if the user is on a mobile device? No, that's not what I want. Maybe, right? So what I basically need is, I need this wrap count to change based upon the real estate available. This property of a gallery, wrap count. Now, how do I make the wrap count dynamic? I can write formulas here. I can say if the width is between this range, set it to 1. If it's in this range, set it to 2, 3, whatever. However, in Powerapps, we already have a really neat property. And let me show you what that property is. In my label header, I will actually paste the value of that property so we can see it live. So I'm going to add something called as, there's a property called as, okay, in my case, I'm going to call this it's called screen.size. So what's the name of my screen? It's home screen.size. There's a property called size. Okay, you see, it says size 4. I'll tell you what 4 is, 3 is, I'll explain. But right now it says that the size of the screen is 4. Let's preview the app. Okay, the size is 4. Let's start shrinking the width. 3, 2, 1. So there is something known as a size property that is changing depending upon the width of my screen. And what is 1, 2, 3, 4? Well, if you go to the app property, if you go to advanced, there is something known as size breakpoints. Okay, size breakpoints. And what this defines is basically the size of the screen depending upon the width of the screen currently. So if the width of my screen is between 0 and 600 pixels, the size of the screen will be 1. If it is between 600 and 900, the size of the screen will be 2. If it's between 900 and 1200, it would be 3. If it is greater than 1200, it would be 4. And to prove my point that that is the case, for the footer, let's remove the all rights reserved scenario, and let's do that. Let's just put let's do the home, let's do app.width, right? That'll show me the live width of my screen. Let's preview this. Check this out. Right now my width is 499, so it's less than what, 600? So it should be 1, it's 1. The moment it goes in between 600 and 900, you see it became 2, 3, 4. And these ranges, these breakpoints that have been defined are actually clinically defined. And I'll tell you why. When the size breakpoint is 1, you are basically on a mobile device held vertically. If you're on 2, mobile device held horizontally. If you're on 3, you're on a tablet device. And if you're on 4, you're on a desktop. That's how it has been designed. So it's already planned in that fashion. And guess what? If you don't like it, you can change it. If you don't like these widths, change it. Maybe for me, 1100 is the right one. I want to add more, add more. You want a super wide screen? Add it. 1300. Let's check this out. 5. You see, I got a new size breakpoint. Because I'm more than 1300. As I start shrinking, it will change. 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can change those and adjust them based on the type of app or the type of scenario you're designing this for. I'll stick to the original values, 600, 900, 1200. Okay, now we got the size breakpoint, but what can I do with this? Well, we can do something very smart. Check this out. I will copy this, go to the gallery, the wrap count. I'll just change this to the screen.size. Now guess what's going to happen? Right now my screen size is 4. So the gallery is wrapping 4 items. Screen size 1, everything's 1. Screen size 2, you see, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Ain't that cool? Doesn't that make the gallery responsive? Truly? Because it's based upon the real estate, it is positioning the elements. Extremely, extremely powerful. Just such a small setting. It's literally one line of code. My screen.size and my gallery becomes responsive automatically. Okay, so, and of course, this is Powerapps. So my focus here is not on designing. I would love to design this and show you how to design galleries as well. But for now, we're going to keep it very simple. I know the gallery doesn't look pretty at all. Someone says Reza presents weekly. I'm actually that's true. I have a session on gallery designing this weekend. So here's my gallery. Here's the header, footer, basic, right? Now I want to create another screen, and in there, what I would like to do is this. In my next screen, I need a form control. So instead of recreating the screen, I'm just going to duplicate the screen to save time. And I'm going to call this my form screen. And just to confirm, how much time do I have, please? Anyone? Dawid?
Yes, still good. So you still have about
10 minutes?
20, yeah.
All right. Okay. I'm going to try and make it in 15. Let's see. Okay. So here's my form screen, right? All I did is I literally just copy pasted. Now, of course, I don't need the gallery here. So goodbye gallery. So what do I build here? In this main section, well, I need my form control. So let's add the form control here. And the form control, I will connect it to my SharePoint list. Okay, so I added the form control. Here's my form control. First step, select the main section, span the width. It's already there. Now, the form control is acting weird, right? If I preview the app, it's gone. If I go back, notice something happened. It now took the entire real estate. This is a bug. Okay, it's a bug in the code. Nothing to worry. Just play the app, come back, it will position itself. Don't ask me why. Okay, now this is spanning the entire width. Now, first thing, why am I not seeing the form control? Well, that's because the mode of my form is edit. Just so that I see the form right now, I'll make it new and preview this so I see the form, right? Now, if you observe something, the form is not spanning the entire width. And if I start shrinking my width, okay, if I start shrinking my width, observe that the controls are responsive. You see, the form is actually responsive. I didn't do anything. You see, the controls are just stacking up now in a 1-column format, 2-column format, and now it's taking the entire real estate. But the width is not spanning throughout. Why? Well, what you have to do is something very simple, actually. Go to the form control, select all the data cards. Reza, it's a lot of work to select the data cards. Yes, it is. But what you can do is this. Hold the control key, hold it, select one card, select 2 cards, stop, control A. Okay, I'll repeat. 1 card, control, 2nd card, control A. To select all your cards. And these data cards have a very neat property. It's called with fit. Okay, with fit. You see on the right hand side here, with fit. Just turn it on. Okay. Now if I preview the app, okay, it takes a little time for it to calibrate and calculate. It's not a problem. You may think that I'm changing the width and it's not work. It does work. Just give it some time. Like you see, it will take the width. Here you go. And bear in mind, when a user is accessing this form, they are not going to keep resizing their screen. And nobody's going to do this, right? Anybody does this while filling a form, no one does that, right? When they will log into the tablet device, they'll see it like this. When they'll come to the mobile device, it will stack up in this one column format. So that's not a problem. So you see, it's automatically placing itself. However, for width size number 3, okay, so you see, it just positions itself very well. Now, if I go for the full spectrum, the full real estate, why is it not positioning it in 4 columns, right? Why not 4? Well, if I go to my form control also has a property called snap to columns. It's turned on. I have set this up in a 3 column format. Let me change this to 4. Okay, I've changed it to a 4 column format. Now, if I preview the app, okay, observe that, yes, it's sitting in a 4 column format, but once again, it's lost that width fit nature. Well, you got to do it again. When you change the snap to columns, turn it off, turn it on. Don't ask me why. Preview it again and try and reposition this and it will stack up again. There you go. You see, it's stacking up. And as the real estate changes, it will reposition itself. Here's another bug in the form control. This is a bug of the form control, nothing to do with redesigning. When you get to the 3 column format, you see this 3 columns. For some reason, it adds 3 columns, then a single column, then 3 columns. Don't ask me why. It just does it. And when I go to 2, it will start stacking correctly. 1 will work fine. 2 will work fine. 3 will act weird. And 4 will work fine. There is no reason why. Now, how do I fix that craziness of 3, right? Well, once again, we could write a little bit of code, okay? Little maths. I'll select all my data cards, go to the width property for each of these cards, and write a small formula here. Yes, Powerapps, write a Powerapps formula. And by the way, Dawid, it's F with a small x. Okay, so what's the width? What's the width of these cards? Well, the width of these cards are going to be the width of my screen, which is what? Which is my form screen, if I can spell my screen right. Why is it not picking up the screen? Okay, let me type it in. All right, my form screen dot width, that is the entire width of my screen, divided by, let's use that same logic that we used for the gallery. The form screen, and I think IntelliSense is not liking the name of my screen, form screen dot size. Now, if I preview the app, nothing's going to change. It's going to do the same thing because all I've said is take the real estate that's available and start positioning things, right? You see, but it's not helping the 3 column layout when the screen size is 3. It still has that issue. Well, what you could do is this. Okay, I'm just going to change the formula. I'm just going to add one simple logic right here, which says if I can go to my home right here. Sorry, I'm building things on the fly. These things are bound to happen. So if the size of my screen is 3, in that case, you decide what you want to do. You want to set it to 2 or you want to set it to 4 because there's a bug. I'm hard coding it to 2. So never set it to 3 is basically all I'm saying. Even if it's 3, make it 2. It's like hard coding something in there. Now let's check it out. Let's go to 1. Okay, this works fine. Let's go to 2. 2. Come on. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to 3. Okay, there you go. That's actually screen layout 3. And let's go to 4. 4. There you go. So you can code that in right here. I know it doesn't sound that great, but you can work around certain things. These are some of the limitations of the form control that unfortunately we can't get around. Now, here's my form control. All I have to do is now tie it to my app. So I'll set this to edit mode. I need a button to submit the form. So in my header itself, I will insert a icon. I'll insert the save icon. When the user clicks this, I would like to submit my form. And when the form is successfully submitted, on success of the form, I will navigate the user back to my home screen. Perfect. And how does the user come here? Well, from my home screen, I will go ahead and add a plus icon right here. When the user selects this, I will first reset the form. I will set the mode of the form to new, and then I will navigate the user to my form screen. And when the user selects any of these items, let's say they select this button, in that case, I will set the form into edit mode and redirect the user there. That's it. Let's check this out in action. I'm going to go here and select this one. And guess what? There's one more thing I had to do on the form control, the item property. I had to set this to gallery.select. Okay, that's it. Let's go back. So here it is. I'm on my form screen. Now observe that it didn't act responsive, but when you actually play the app, it will. You got to trust me on that. It's just the designer mode that acts up. So here's my form. And this is responsive, right? If I shrink the width, you see, it's all responsive. It will all position themselves. Let's say I change my status. I'm going to change my status to completed, save. This will post it to my data source. And here is the status that's completed. If I want to create a new record, let's create one. I'm going to call this responsive check. Okay, description is responsive. Let's prove it also, right? Why just talk through it? There you go. Now imagine I'm accessing this on my mobile device, right? Category is planning, engineering. Don't know why that's engineering, but status is in progress. Priority is high. Whatever, you get the crux, right? If I save this, boom, takes me to the home page. Here is my record. Let me increase the width. Imagine I'm on a mobile device. I select this. It form always acts up. Here you go. This is how it's going to work. So that's how easy it becomes. Remember, there's still work you have to do, but these container controls do help in building responsive apps. That was my demo. I tried to keep it live. I tried to keep it real so you can see it live in action, how things could potentially work. I hope you all enjoyed the demo. Back to my presentation to quickly wrap it up and then open the floor for questions. This was the demo. Let me switch over to the next screen. A few learning resources to help you get started. Responsive design, I have a full playlist on this on my channel, and that's actually the short link to it. bit.ly/responsive Powerapps, all lowercase. I have shown multiple ways in which to build responsive apps. Container controls is not always the answer. If you go through my videos, you will understand why. Sometimes you have to actually write formulas. You have to do some crazy things to build responsive apps. There was an official blog from Microsoft around the container controls, so do read about them. And bear in mind, container controls are in preview. Please bear in mind they are in preview. 99% they're not going to break things. You can use them, but still there's that 1% chance. And of course, nothing beats the documentation on docs.microsoft.com. Remember, videos are a great guide, but videos don't update themselves. Documentation does. So always stick to the official documentation from Microsoft. Any new feature comes in, you will always have that information right there. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present on today's call. And thank you for listening. And the floor is now open for questions. Jonathan, I can't hear you. Or is it just me? Oh. No, sir. You are still on mute.
Okay, well, let's just ignore Jonathan then.
Playback.
May I ask a question, please, Reza?
Yes.
In your last demo, would you not want to set the column property of your form equal to the screen.size?
Yes, I would. I'm absolutely right. I would want to do that. But the problem is that the column property is, you can't set that. You have to pick these numbers. It's not settable.
Ah, okay.
It's kind of, I won't call it read only, but you can't update that property. That was the first thing I was going to do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
And the other thing is, these data cards that you get in a form control, they are very finicky. if something changes, for example, if I just turn this feature off, right? Snap to columns. Now, if I just turn this on, everything's going to change. It's going to readjust. All my formulas will be gone. That's how finicky they are. So it's best to set it up once and then plug your formulas and just leave the form control. And it's not a lot of work, right? Once you know the trick of selecting multiple data cards at once, it's not a problem because you can set the formula in one go. And with fit is very important. If I would not have selected this, for example, you see how the bottom attachments control is taking the entire width. If you don't want that, don't set with fit. With fit basically takes the entire available real estate. I think that's a pretty neat property of data cards.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Thanks, Reza. No, I think you can hear me right now.
Yes, sir. Can hear you absolutely
Okay,
fine.
Perfect. No, I just wanted to say thanks for that. That was a real great show. I know I learned a couple of things, so I really appreciate your time today. Monet, you've got a question?
Yeah, I just want to find out, so when you showed the templates as available, you said it wasn't available for mobile.
Correct.
Just available. So what actually happens on mobile?
So on mobile, what you would have to do is something that I demonstrated in the first go. So imagine I build again, that's not the name of an app, but just trying to build something. So on mobile, the steps are going to be exactly the same. Okay, you have to go to your app, you have to go to file. This doesn't change, right? Screen size, orientation, turn this off, apply. These steps you have to take. Now, the thing about mobile is I don't have layouts, right? I don't have those templates to get started with, but I can build my own, right? What can I do? Well, very simple. Just go add a container. Here's my container, right? Now you have to do the work. X, this is what you have to do. X, that's why I wanted to explain those properties initially. Why? With, you have to write the code just for the container. You got to do it. If you find it hard to understand how this is done, well, build a tablet app and see that and see the formulas for this base container. That's it.
Is it better to start then off or
I would recommend starting with tablet, because if you're truly building responsive apps, it doesn't matter what you start with. But the advantage of tablet is you already get a lot of these reusable templates to play with. I would recommend starting with a tablet app going forward. But what if someone has already invested in a mobile app? They already have a fully functional mobile app which they would like to make responsive. Well, in that case, you have to do this. So the answer is it depends. But if you're starting from scratch, I would definitely recommend begin with tablet now, because of these features.
Okay, thank you. Another question from us. Is there anything from adding components into containers that we need to be aware of?
You can add components inside containers as well, and the same properties will apply. One thing I have observed though, when I tried to add components in containers, I observed that there were challenges. The biggest challenges both are in preview. Containers is in preview, components is also in preview. So be mindful of that fact. But can I add a component inside a container? Yes. Ideally, you should make your components responsive as well by design, ideally. And I have built a few components. I actually did a very recent video on a left navigation component. I made that responsive because if you don't build your component responsive, there's no value to it. And to make a responsive component, once again, I had to play with the same properties. And can I add something in a component? So let's say I'm building a component. You can even add a container here. Just want to highlight that as well. So this is like Inception. Containers can go everywhere. Containers in a container, in a component, in a container. You can do all of that. But the more nesting you do, the more complex it could potentially get. Thank you.
Manish, you got a question?
Actually, hello, hi, not a question, but just a shout out to both Reza and Dawid for all your help in your videos that you've posted, because about 8 weeks ago, as a newbie developer, I used your videos a lot to fix up an app that an developer had completely fudged up. And 2 months later, I think, I'm now on Power App number 3, and what I've seen today is just wow, next level. So I'm planning
So
to use
happy to
this
hear that.
next week. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thanks.
Well, you are
Bye.
most welcome. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thanks for the feedback. Glad you
Cheers.
found it helpful.
Thanks. Bye.
Great stuff. Once again, Reza, really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing. I know a lot of people learned a lot from what you've shared. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Hope to have you back again soon.
Absolutely. I would be more than happy to come back in future when I have more tricks up my sleeve.
Great stuff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
Dawid,
Rez,
over to you.
Rez, what we'll do is, I think, just send us the months that you don't have anything else planned for on the second Tuesday, and then we
So
can just.
I have two YouTube videos a week, so that's a given. And apart from that, I have these speaking engagements. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
And honestly, I build things that work. I build things for customers, and that's where I steal my ideas from. And many a times they are so generous. They tell me, yeah, you want to showcase this? Do it. So the ideas come from actual customer scenarios.
Yeah. 100%.
That is awesome, man. Well
So,
done.
Dawid, over to you. Good luck following that session.
Yeah, I think every month I say we need to change the order of this, because I end up doing a tech tip after an awesome demo, and then it's just like, nah. Right, but this month I've got a good one. All right, so actually there's a gentleman by the name of Matthew Devaney. I don't know who has seen any of his stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to
He's a cat, right? I've seen that cat before.
Yeah, him and Sancho, right? So, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen quickly, and I'm going to show you an awesome tech tip. And that's actually 10 tips. All right, so if you go into this site, so matthewdevaney.com/top 10 Power Apps tips of 2020. All right, so this is a little bit last year, but it's still very relevant. And one or two of these things have changed. One of these Rez just pointed out during the session. And Rez has actually got one or two of the tips on this article is actually by Reza. So yeah, we're absolutely starstruck today. So if you go to the site and you scroll down, you'll see that there are 10 tips that I really recommend that you go and play with. They're really some game changers. The first one is getting rid of the navigation bar. Now, if I zoom into this, you will see, okay, on the Mac that's not working. Let's just try and zoom.
You might need a premium connector for zooming.
All right, so you'll see the navigation bar on the left-hand side, you've got the actual Powerapps purple area at the top here. And that gives you the app name and all of these shortcuts over there. But if you look at the whole app navigation, if you build app navigation or a header in the app itself, then that sort of clashes, So on the right over here is to remove, is the nav bar removed, and this is just so much better. And it's just a simple URL parameter that you need to add, where you go and say ampersand hide navbar equals true. So this is absolutely awesome, and so we use this a lot. Second is changing the style of all of the form controls at once. And so in the past, I don't know, Rez, when did this change, and did it change? Because I know in the past you had to jump through these hoops to actually go and select, or this is actually for the content.
No, this is different. This is for the controls within those data cards. If you need that, you have to still do that crazy horizontal vertical shift.
But I've also found that this messes around with the card layouts at some
Yes,
stage.
it does. It does ruin your card layout. But it's again, that's why I said once you set it, don't play with it.
Yeah. So use this carefully. Don't go and take your biggest app to go and test this out. First get familiar with what this does. But this is quite a cool tip as well. Then maintain your X and Y positions when copying controls. This is a very cool hint. And although somebody following you working in your apps might think that you've absolutely lost it by just multiplying everything by 1, it does allow you to easily copy and paste controls throughout the app without it losing those values. So this is a great tip. Definitely go and check that out. Turn off snap to align. So this is if you drag and drop these controls on the screen, you'll see that it sort of wants to go into a specific slot. And if you hit Alt while you're dragging that, you've got a little bit more precision. But actually, you know, as you build more and more advanced apps, I think you'll probably use drag and drop less and less and start using the layout containers or then X and Y controls more frequently. It just allows you so much more accuracy and flexibility with regard to placing your controls. Right, Rez, this is an awesome hint. So I'm sure everybody's aware of the delegation errors, and everybody's scared of it, and everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of apps sort of realize or hit a problem when it's too late. All right, so when it's in production and it's been there for about a month or two, and now all of a sudden things start going weird because now you've hit some delegation limits. Well, what Reza is saying is, instead of using the default 500 rows limit, change that to 1. So if you're going to have issues with delegation, you're going to immediately see it, even while you're busy developing the app. So this is an absolutely top tip. Thank you very much for that, Rez.
Thank you.
Remove duplicates rows from a collection. This is from Matthew himself. So this is a very cool tip. So if you had duplicate records to apply this formula, actually goes and removes those and gives you a sanitized version of the data. So that's very cool as well. One line of code time picker is absolutely stunning. So it allows you to populate a drop-down list with all of the 15-minute increments for your time picker for the day. And that just has the simple line of PowerFX in order to accomplish that. I love the PowerFX thing. I think it's nice to be able to put that on your skill set. And I think going forward, that's going to be definitely something that people and companies look out for, whether you're in IT or HR. If you're going to have PowerFX on your CV, I think it's going to definitely mean something. It's going to definitely give you the benefit and advantage. Right, then another awesome guy, also named Dawid. So his surname is a little bit different than mine though. But essentially, he found a way to actually patch SharePoint columns or choice columns without using OData. So if you've ever done this, you would also be very excited about this. And what it allows you is just to specify the record inside of the property, inside of the update string for the patch command. So this is very cool. Definitely go and check this out. And then generate a barcode in a SharePoint list. This is also very useful. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun with this one. And then the last one is also again from Matthew, where you can go and increase the actual size of the label, and then just move, of the icon actually, and then just move the padding so that it increases the area that you can click on. So now you'll see that in this GIF over here, as you increase this thing, this entire section becomes a clickable control, and not only the icon itself. So that's a very neat hint as well. All right, so absolutely go and check this out. I'll post this in the chat right now, and then you can go and check it out. Also follow Matt on Twitter, and this is his blog, obviously, so there's some very good content. We're still working hard on him to start the YouTube channel. Rez, do you know what his plans are with that? Because I think he's going to rock on YouTube as well.
He was planning, but I don't think he ever got. I think he's still trying to grow his user base on his blog before he heads there.
Yeah, so
I think he's gonna rock. He and I did a video for the Houston user group. I actually have that up on my channel, wherein if you want to go through all these tips, we actually did a full 1 hour session wherein all we did was tips. There's a lot more tips than, I think we covered like 30 tips in an hour. And that includes most of these, wherein data cards and heights and widths multiply by 1. All those cool tricks are in there.
That is awesome. I'll definitely go and steal some ideas for next month's tech tip, which I do every week or every month in this meetup. All right, so I'll definitely post this in the chat. So definitely go and have a look at that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dawid. That's really cool.
Pleasure. Can't say that I did much for that, but yeah, thank you.
It's definitely handy. It's great to point these things out. There's so much information out there. It's handy once you come across something that's useful and then share it with everyone. So thanks a lot. Okay, so we are coming up to the end of the session. I just want to check in and see, are there any questions from anyone in general? Anything for Dawid and what he presented, or anything in general that you just want to know? Okay, great.
Michael,
so that's good.
Don't you have a cookbook today?
So potentially, I was just gonna, do stump the mic. So yeah, also just open it up for questions and see what questions people have. And the great thing is I've got such experts today that I can just pass the questions straight on to somebody else. So I don't know if there are any questions.
Doesn't look like it. I think it's just information overload. There are lots of great things shared. I think people's minds are focused on that at the moment.
I was going to cover how to make your app faster, in quotes, because that's a question I get a lot, is how do I make my app faster? Which is a very broad question, but it's actually quite a big topic. So we can cover that off perhaps
Maybe
next time.
that we can, yeah, we can include that in the section next week. Well, next month, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So with that, thanks everyone for your time today. I hope you found this worthwhile. As usual, all these recordings will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Monet also uploads to the Cape Town channel as well, so you can check it out in both places. Okay. So with that, thanks everyone. Thanks again, Reza, for your session. Really appreciate it. Great having you. And hope you all have a great week further. Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Well,
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, cheers.
Bye-bye.